The city lights glittered all around the rooftop, wrapping the night in gold. Music played softly over the hum of conversation, and waiters weaved between clusters of well-dressed guests carrying trays of champagne. It was Daniel's night, his big promotion to partner at one of the most prestigious law firms in New York, and everything looked perfect. Olivia stood near the glass railing, one hand resting gently on her belly. She wore a deep green dress that hugged her figure, and her dark curls fell softly over her shoulders. She smiled when people congratulated her about Daniel, but her mind was on something else. She had been holding in her own news for weeks, waiting for the right moment. Tonight, surrounded by family, she would finally tell them. Daniel stood a few steps away, talking with his colleagues, his laughter ringing above the chatter. When his eyes met hers, he smiled, and she felt a small burst of courage. She took a deep breath, walked toward the small cluster of family members near the buffet, and called for their attention. "I have something to share," she began, her voice trembling slightly but warm. Everyone turned to look at her. Daniel, his parents, his sister Claire, and a few close friends. "Daniel and I, we're expecting a baby." The air shifted. There were gasps, claps, and smiles. Daniel's mother covered her mouth in surprise. His father gave a hearty laugh. But then Claire's voice cut through the celebration. "Well," she said, her lips curling into a slow, knowing smirk, "congratulations. I just hope Daniel's the father." The words dropped into the air like a stone in water. Silence spread, followed by a low wave of shocked murmurs. Some guests looked away, pretending not to have heard. Others stared at Olivia with wide eyes. For a moment, Olivia couldn't move. Her ears rang, her heart thudded hard against her ribs. She felt the heat rush up her neck, the smile frozen on her face. She searched Daniel's face for something, anger, defense, anything, but he just looked stunned, his jaw tight. Claire took a sip of her champagne, her eyes never leaving Olivia. The smirk stayed. The noise of the party swelled back in, but it felt far away. Olivia's chest tightened, her hands trembling. She couldn't let them see her break. Not here, not tonight. She forced her lips into a small, polite smile, excused herself quietly, and made her way to the edge of the rooftop where the cool night air hit her face. She gripped the railing with one hand, the other resting protectively over her stomach. The city lights blurred in her vision. She closed her eyes, took a slow breath, and whispered to herself, steady and firm, "Not tonight. She's not taking this from me." Olivia grew up in a small two-bedroom house on the edge of a quiet town. Her father worked long hours at a printing shop, and her mother cleaned offices in the evening. Money was always tight, but her parents made sure she had what she needed, even if it meant going without themselves. From a young age, Olivia learned how to be resourceful. She knew how to stretch a meal, how to mend clothes, and how to smile through moments when she wished she had more. School was her escape. She worked hard, got top grades, and earned a scholarship to study law. She believed education would open doors her parents never had the chance to walk through. She first met Daniel at a law school networking event. He was tall, confident, and seemed to know everyone in the room. His easy laugh and charming manners made people naturally gather around him. Olivia noticed him watching her from across the table, and when he finally came over to talk, his questions felt genuine. They discovered they were both passionate about law, though his focus was corporate work, while she leaned toward public service. It wasn't long before they were seeing each other regularly. Daniel came from a wealthy family that lived in a large, glass-fronted house in an upscale neighborhood. The first time he brought her there, she was overwhelmed by how different it was from her own upbringing. His family seemed polite enough at first, until she met Claire. Claire was Daniel's older sister by 5 years. She was tall, impeccably dressed, and carried herself like someone used to being obeyed. At their first introduction, Claire's handshake was firm but her eyes cold. "So, you're the scholarship girl," she had said with a faint smile, as though it were both a compliment and an insult. Over the years, Claire found small ways to remind Olivia of where she came from. She would give compliments that felt like digs. "You look so elegant tonight. I wouldn't have guessed that dress was off the rack." She often insisted on family traditions that excluded Olivia, like hosting certain holidays at her own home without inviting her. Sometimes she would send group messages about events, but accidentally leave Olivia out, later pretending it was just a mistake. Daniel usually brushed it off. "That's just Claire," he'd say. "She's protective. Don't take it personally." But it was hard not to. Every time Claire dismissed her, Olivia felt a small chip break off her confidence. Still, she tried to keep the peace. She told herself that marrying Daniel meant becoming part of his whole family, and she didn't want to create tension. She smiled when Claire made subtle jabs. She accepted the missed invitations without complaint. She convinced herself that one day Claire would see she wasn't a threat, that she genuinely loved Daniel and wanted the best for him. But the longer it went on, the more Olivia felt like she was standing outside a locked door, watching the rest of them through the glass. Even when Daniel proposed, Claire's congratulations came with a shadow. Marriage is hard, she'd said, especially when you come from different worlds. Olivia kept telling herself she could win Claire over with kindness and patience. But deep down, she knew that every interaction left her feeling smaller. It wasn't just about Claire not liking her. It was about Claire wanting to keep control over Daniel's life. And Olivia had spent years quietly fighting to hold on to her place by his side. Olivia had truly believed the pregnancy would change things. She thought maybe, just maybe, a baby would be the bridge that brought her and Claire to some kind of peace. She pictured Claire smiling for once without that sharp edge in her voice. Imagined her being excited to be an aunt. That hope shattered in seconds on the rooftop. After Claire's cruel comment, the air in the party shifted. Even when the music picked up again, Olivia could feel eyes on her. She caught pieces of whispered conversations as she walked past. Her name mixed with soft gasps, the word really, said in hushed tone. Some people avoided her gaze entirely. Others looked at her with that mix of pity and curiosity she hated. Daniel stayed near the bar, speaking to a couple of his colleagues, glancing at her now and then, but not coming over right away. When he finally did, he kept his voice low, his expression tight. Just ignore her, he said quickly. She was out of line, but if we make a scene, it'll ruin the night. Olivia stared at him. She just accused me of cheating, in front of your whole family. I know, he said, glancing around like he didn't want anyone to overhear. We'll deal with it later. For now, just let it go. Let it go. The words hit her like a slap. This was supposed to be their moment. Instead of defending her, he was asking her to swallow it, to pretend it hadn't happened. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Olivia stayed mostly on the edges, her smile stiff, her stomach twisting. When the party finally ended, she slipped away to the guest room in Daniel's parents' house, claiming she was tired. It was well past midnight when she woke to the sound of a voice in the hallway. At first, she thought it was Daniel, but then she recognized Claire's low, deliberate tone. Olivia got up and moved to the slightly open door, her bare feet silent on the carpet. No, he doesn't know, Claire was saying to someone over the phone. Her voice was calm but dripping with satisfaction. But he will. Soon enough. I just need the right moment. There was a pause, then a laugh, short, sharp. Trust me, when he finds out, she's gone for good. Olivia's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her ears. She stepped back before Claire could notice her, and closed the door quietly. She leaned against it, her mind racing. What truth was Claire talking about? What could she possibly be planning that would make Daniel turn on her completely? For years, Olivia had let things slide. She'd smiled through insults, endured cold shoulders, swallowed anger for the sake of keeping the peace. But this was different. This wasn't just about Claire being petty. This was about her trying to destroy her marriage before the baby was even born. Olivia put a hand over her stomach, feeling the faint, protective ache in her chest. No, not this time. She wasn't going to wait around and let Claire pull the strings. Whatever secret Claire thought she held, Olivia was going to find it, and she would be ready before Claire could make her move. In the days after the party, Olivia carried herself as if nothing had happened, but inside she was restless. Claire's late-night phone call kept replaying in her mind. She started paying closer attention to little details she might have ignored before. One afternoon while Daniel was at work, she went through an old family photo album his mother had given her months ago. Most pictures were happy moments, holidays, vacations, birthdays, but in a few of them, she noticed Claire standing close to certain people, speaking in ways that looked private even in a still image. There was one picture from a firm's holiday gala years ago where Claire was laughing with a man Olivia recognized from Daniel's stories, a senior partner at his law firm. Something about the way Claire was leaning toward him, her hand just brushing his, made Olivia pause. It wasn't proof of anything, but it was a small thread, and Olivia kept pulling. She started listening more closely during lunches with mutual friends, catching snippets of conversation that made her stomach twist. In one case, a woman from Daniel's social circle mentioned casually, "Oh, I heard from Claire that you used to date someone before law school, someone who's still in the city. Small world, right?" Olivia kept her voice even. "I've had relationships before." "Why?" The woman hesitated, clearly regretting saying anything. "Nothing really. Just..." Claire sort of hinted that maybe this baby wasn't. She stopped herself, looking embarrassed. That was all Olivia needed to hear. Claire wasn't just making one cruel comment at the party. She had been planting this seed of doubt everywhere. That night, Olivia sat Daniel down. She told him about the rumors, about what she had heard, about the woman repeating Claire's insinuations. Daniel sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. "Liv, you're letting her get to you. You know how Claire is. She says things she shouldn't, but she doesn't mean them." "She doesn't mean them?" Olivia stared at him. "She's telling people you might not be the father of your own child, Dan. That's not harmless gossip. That's character assassination." He leaned back in his chair, his jaw tightening. "Look, she's my sister. We've been through a lot together. Sometimes she goes too far, but she's protective of me. Maybe she just wants to make sure." Olivia cut him off, her voice sharper than she intended. "Make sure of what? That I'm good enough? That I pass whatever test she's setting for me?" Daniel's eyes flickered, and for a moment he looked like he wanted to argue, but then he just said, "You're overreacting." The words sank into her like cold water. He wasn't going to defend her. He wasn't going to see it. After that conversation, Olivia stopped expecting Daniel to fight for her. Instead, she focused on understanding Claire's real motive. The more she thought about it, the more she realized this wasn't just about humiliating her. It was about control. Claire wanted to be the one who shaped Daniel's life, who decided who he married, what kind of family he had, even how his success was celebrated. A few days later, she learned something that made everything click into place. Daniel's promotion party, the rooftop event, had been Claire's idea from the start. She had planned it, chosen the guest list, and even coordinated the timing so that the announcement would happen when everyone important was watching. Olivia saw it clearly now. Claire hadn't been caught off guard by the pregnancy news. She had been waiting for it, waiting for her moment to strike in front of as many people as possible. That realization burned in her chest. Claire hadn't just embarrassed her. She had staged the entire evening to make sure she could do it with maximum impact. Olivia sat alone in the kitchen late that night, a cup of tea cooling in her hand. She felt the baby move, a small, fluttering kick, and it strengthened her resolve. This wasn't just about her pride anymore. It was about protecting her child from a family member who would go this far to keep her out. Whatever Claire was hiding, Olivia was going to find it. And when she did, she wouldn't just defend herself. She would make sure there was no coming back for Claire. Weeks passed, and Olivia kept her distance from Daniel's family. She didn't confront Claire, didn't respond to any small jabs passed along through mutual friends. She was waiting. In that time, she pieced together the missing parts of the story, the half-smiles and old photos, the whispers and firm gossip, the way Daniel avoided certain topics whenever the senior partners came up. It turned out the man in the photo from years ago, the senior partner, had been married at the time. Claire's friendship with him had been more than that. When word began to spread at the firm, Daniel had stepped in, smoothing it over, convincing people it was just a misunderstanding to protect the family's name. It had worked, but it had cost him. Olivia could only imagine what strings he'd had to pull. Now Claire was repaying him by tearing at his marriage. The night of the family dinner arrived. It was at Daniel's parents' home. Large windows, expensive china, and a dining table long enough to fit a small army. Olivia wore a simple navy dress, her hair pulled back. She kept her smile polite, her voice calm. The first half of the meal passed in careful conversation. Claire talked about her latest charity project. Daniel's father discussed some business news. Olivia sat quietly, responding when addressed, keeping her breathing steady. She knew Claire would strike eventually, she always did. It came just as dessert was served. Claire set down her fork, looked straight at Olivia, and said with a smile too sweet to be real, "You know, I still find it so inspiring how quickly you and Daniel decided to start a family. Some people might have different opinions, but I suppose rushing into things has always been your style." There was a faint laugh from one of the cousins, but most of the table went silent. Daniel's shoulders tensed beside her. Olivia placed her napkin neatly on the table and looked at Claire. "You've been very busy these last few weeks," she said softly, "telling people stories about me, questioning my character. But you've been leaving out a story of your own." Claire's smile faltered. "I'm not sure what you mean." "Oh, I think you do." Olivia's voice was calm, steady. "A few years ago, you had an affair with a married partner at Daniel's firm. It almost became public, but Daniel stepped in. He lied for you, protected you, risked his own reputation for you." The room froze. No one moved. The only sound was the faint clink of a spoon dropping into a saucer. Claire's face went pale, then flushed a deep red. "That's a disgusting lie." "It's not a lie," Olivia said, still calm. "I've seen the photos. I've heard the people who worked there at the time. The only reason your name didn't end up in the press is because Daniel covered it up." Gasps moved around the table. Daniel's mother looked from Claire to Daniel, her eyes wide with shock. Daniel didn't say a word. He wasn't looking at Olivia. He was staring at his sister, his expression hard, like something in him had finally broken. Claire opened her mouth as if to argue, but no words came. Her hands were clenched in her lap. Olivia stood, smoothing the skirt of her dress. "I'm done being your target, Claire. Whatever game you're playing, it ends here." She turned to Daniel, her voice softening but still firm. "I won't sit at a table where someone tries to destroy me while pretending to protect you." Without raising her voice, without slamming a door, Olivia walked out. The murmurs behind her rose into chaos. Questions, accusations, Claire's voice shaking as she tried to defend herself. But Olivia didn't look back. She stepped out into the cool night air, breathing in deeply. The weight on her chest felt lighter. She had said what needed to be said. Whatever happened in that dining room now was no longer her burden to carry. Weeks went by without a word from Daniel. Olivia stayed at her mother's small house on the edge of town. The quiet felt strange at first, but it was also peaceful. She spent her days reading, taking short walks, and feeling the baby's kicks grow stronger. Her mother cooked for her, fussed over her, and never asked more than Olivia was ready to share. One rainy afternoon, there was a knock at the door. Olivia's heart skipped when she saw Daniel standing there, damp from the weather, his suit wrinkled. He looked tired, older somehow. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. She stepped aside but didn't smile. He walked in, glancing around the small living room like it felt foreign to him. For a long moment, they just stood there. "I owe you an apology," he said finally. "More than one. I let Claire twist things for years. I kept telling myself she was just protective, that she didn't mean any harm. But I see now she wanted control. And I let her have it, even when it hurt you. I didn't defend you when I should have. I let you stand there at that party alone." Olivia listened, her hands resting on her belly. His words hurt because they were true, but she didn't rush to forgive him. "I'm not going back to the way things were, Daniel," she said. "I can't. Not unless things change." He nodded. "Tell me what you need." She took a deep breath. "If you want to be in my life, and in our babies, you need to make your own choices. You can't let Claire have this hold over you anymore. That means distance. It means therapy. And it means telling the truth to the same people who heard her lies. Publicly, you need to show them you believe in me." Daniel didn't hesitate. "I'll do it. All of it. Whatever it takes." Olivia searched his face, looking for signs of doubt, but saw only determination. "I mean it, Daniel. One step back into her control, and I'm gone for good." "I know," he said. His voice was steady. "I don't want to lose you, Liv, or our child." For the first time in months, she believed he might mean it. Still, she didn't let herself relax completely. Trust, she knew now, had to be rebuilt slowly, brick by brick. When he left later that evening, Olivia stood at the window, watching him walk down the street in the drizzle. She didn't feel like she was giving him another chance. She felt like she was giving herself the choice to decide, on her own. The living room was full of soft chatter and the smell of fresh coffee. Friends sat on the couch and floor, plates of cake balanced in their hands. Someone laughed loudly from the corner, and the sound made the baby in Olivia's arms stir, but not wake. She looked down at her daughter's tiny face, the little fists curled close to her chest. The baby's slow breathing felt like the most peaceful rhythm in the world. It had been 3 months since the birth. Life wasn't perfect, but it was hers now. The people in the room weren't here because of status or family pressure. They were here because they cared. Neighbors, old classmates, a few colleagues she trusted. They asked about her sleep, her health, her plans for the future, and none of it felt like judgment. Daniel was there too, standing near the kitchen, refilling drinks. He smiled at her when their eyes met, but he didn't hover. He didn't need to be at the center of every moment anymore, and she didn't need him there to feel secure. He was part of her life, yes, but not the measure of her worth. Olivia shifted the baby in her arms and listened to the warmth of the room. The clink of cups, the rise and fall of happy voices, the easy flow of conversation. This was her circle now. She thought back to the rooftop party, the sting of humiliation, the way it had felt like her whole world was collapsing. And now here she was, holding the future in her arms, surrounded by people who saw her for who she truly was. A quiet smile spread across her face. "I didn't just survive this," she thought. "I rewrote the story." Outside, the afternoon sun poured through the window, touching her with a light that felt like calm strength. Hey besties. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed Olivia's journey from betrayal to strength, don't forget to like, share, and drop a comment with your thoughts. And of course, subscribe for more gripping dramas. See you in the next one, where a forgotten girl's trip invite turns into the ultimate seat upgrade for revenge. Bye!